Here we go, man. We're live. So, weekly shred Thursday night. My name is Jim Schultz. I'm your tour guide. I'm your host. What we're going to talk about tonight, I'm super pumped, man. We're going to talk about what to do when you want to quit. And so I don't care how disciplined of a dieter you might be, right? I don't care, how much on lock you feel like you have everything down, right? There's going to come a point when you just want to quit. There's going to come a point when you just want to throw in the towel. And so I want to talk about a few things that you can do to kind of shift that mindset away from, hey, I'm about to just walk away from this thing entirely and I'll just leave, Shredsville for another, place and time. Let's shift that mindset to something that is a little bit more productive, to something that is a little bit more optimistic, if you will. And so, if you guys want to hit me with a like, if you guys are regular viewers of the Weekly Shred, if you want to toss me a thumbs up, that would help me out a ton. If you guys are brand new, hey, let me know in the comments if you guys are brand new. I think I figured out how to watch the comments in real time. So I will check on them from time to time to see kind of what's coming in through the pipes. So if you're brand new checking this thing out, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you happen to be watching this, hey, let me know in the comments. Say, hey, Jim, I'm brand new, and I heard about this from a friend or a neighbor or a coworker, or I was just randomly scouring the internet and your mug came up on my feed. And so let me know, man. I would absolutely, I would love to hear that. So, all right. So what do you do when you want to quit? What do you do when you just want to throw in the towel? Okay, the first thing that I think you need to do, and this is super cliche. This is so cliche because you hear this all the time, but it's really, really powerful, and I'm going to show you guys a way that you can actually use this in a very, very practical sense. You need to figure out what is your why. You hear this all the time, right? We always talk about this. We always hear this. Everybody's kind of talking about, man, you got to get back to your why. You got to get back to your why. You got to get back to your why. And you know what? You do. You really do need to get back to your why. And here are some of the reasons why. When you are doubting yourself, when you are feeling like, man, my goal is insurmountable, right? I've got 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 75, 95 pounds to lose. I'm just really overwhelmed by what I'm up against here. I just feel a little intimidated by, what I have signed up for here. You can really feel like you're never going to make it. You can really feel like you're never going to get anywhere near your goal. By latching on to your why, the reason why you got started, it really is a driving force like no other. It really is a driving force that is unmatched throughout the rest of your life, both internally and externally. But if we focus on just the internal component, your why, man, it can really be your internal engine. It can be the thing that gets you going when you don't want to. It can be the thing that keeps you going further and faster and harder and longer when you've got a little momentum built up, right? Like once you've got a little something going and you've got a little momentum built up, this can be the thing that really keeps you going by understanding your why, by actually, harnessing the power of this, internal engine, if you will. And so how do you find your why? So how do you actually figure out what your why is? Let me know in the comments if you guys know what your why is. I would love to know what your personal why is. It's going to be unique for everybody. I'm going to share mine with you guys here in just a second. But I would love to know what yours is. And I'm actually curious to know if I'm able to monitor these comments correctly. So if you do happen to be watching this live, which, I know many of you catch this on the replay, so that's, of course, absolutely cool. But if you are watching this live, hit me with a comment wherever you happen to be watching this so I can see if I can actually see the comments as they come in. So my strategy for finding my why, I actually discovered this a few years ago, and it's really, really effective. So Toyota, the car company, so they had this little idea that they came up with. It was probably 3, 4, 5 decades ago. As part of their quality control system, they came up with this little protocol that they refer to as the 5 whys. I think this idea originated with Toyota. At least according to Wikipedia, which, let's be honest, that's the truth. This originated with Toyota. So the 5 whys. Here's basically what they did. Whenever they would run into a problem, whenever they would run into an issue within quality control, they would ask themselves or their team why 5 times. By doing that, by the 5th why, if not before the 5th why, they would get to the bottom of whatever was going on. They would get to the bottom of whatever was the issue at hand, or whatever they were trying to improve upon, or whatever they were trying to polish up, or whatever the case may be, right? By asking why 5 times, they were actually able to uncover kind of the root cause, or the root driver, pun intended, of what was going on. So I heard that, I discovered this a few years ago, and I'm like, I'm going to take this idea, and I'm going to use it on myself. I'm going to take this idea, and I want to uncover my own why. So here is my why. My overarching goal, the overarching thing that I want to do from a fitness standpoint, right? Obviously, I have other goals. I mean, as a Christian, my relationship with God is the most important thing to me in this world. I have goals that are related to that. Finance, kind of, my professional livelihood. I have goals that are related to that. But when it comes to fitness, kind of that third F, right? I also have goals related to fitness that are, probably most relevant for a show titled The Weekly Shred. So my overarching goal is, oh, look at this. I got a couple comments. I got Tasty Trader saying vanity. Vanity? Is that your why? Man, and Stella said like a kid? Your why is like a kid? So I got a couple of comments that came in from Twitter. That's awesome. So Tasty Trader, your why is vanity? Is that what I'm hearing correctly? So elaborate on that a little bit if that's actually true, because that's pretty bad if that's true. I thought mine was bad. I'm going to share it with you guys in a second. That's actually worse. So that's good. That makes me feel better. But Stella, like a kid, I'm not quite sure what you mean there, so let me know. And if you guys are watching on Facebook or YouTube, let me know in the comments there too. It looks like I've got Facebook coming through the stream here, but I don't know that YouTube is coming through the comment stream. And so that is not amazing. But nevertheless, that's okay. We've also got, I've got the YouTube chat. So, wow. So, yeah, Dr. Zayas on the YouTube chat. Multiple public appearances with Dr. Jim. That's right. So some of you may have just seen me hop on the Tasty Trade Beyond Meat thing I just did like 20 minutes ago. And it was funny when they laid out the schedule for that. I'm like 8:05. They're jamming me up, man. That's right in the weekly shred, right? So we had to push the weekly shred back a little bit, and so definitely no problems there whatsoever. But yeah, Dr. Zayas, thanks for tuning in, man. You're on the YouTube chat, so that's pretty cool. And so a similar message to Simon Sinek. My wife reads his books, dude. So you tell Christina that me and her, we are like this, because Simon Sinek is amazing. So his YouTube videos, his TED Talks, all that stuff, incredible. His book, Start With Why, had an unbelievable impact on me. His book, Start With Why, had an incredible impact on me. And it's actually not what I used to discover my own why, because I hadn't known about or learned about the 5 whys yet. But that book really, really got me thinking about, kind of my purpose in this world, when it comes to, the 3 Fs, when it comes to F cubed, right? Like fitness, finance, and faith. It really started to challenge me to think about, what I wanted to accomplish in those areas. So here's my why. My overarching goal, for those of you that have been following me, this is not going to surprise you. My overarching goal in the world of fitness is to turn pro. My overarching goal in the world of fitness is to earn my pro card as a competitive natural bodybuilder. That would be an unbelievable achievement for me. Okay, so that's my overall goal. But now, this is where the fun begins. Now you start asking yourself, I start asking myself, why? And the trick is, you've got to keep asking yourself why until you strike an emotional chord, right? Until you strike, oil, and you're like, yep, that's it. And you'll know it when you find it. You'll know it when it just resonates with you at your core. And here's how it goes for me. So I want to turn pro. I want to earn my pro card. Well, why do I want to do that? Well, I want to do that because then all of a sudden, all these guys that, I look up to in the natural bodybuilding world, they will no longer be my, mentors, so to speak. I mean, they'll always kind of be my mentors, but they will no longer be above me. We will now be peers. We will now be standing on the same stage together. That would be an unbelievable accomplishment for me. Why is that? Okay, so that's the first why. The next why. Well, why is that important to me? That's important to me because, that will mean that I've been able to do something that when I was 18, 19, 20 years old, I never thought was possible. When I started my bodybuilding career, that was like the loftiest of dreams that I've ever had when it comes to bodybuilding. I didn't think that that was actually attainable. I didn't think that that was actually something I could do. And so, it's to turn pro. It's to stand toe-to-toe with these bodybuilders that I look up to as my peers. That would be an unbelievable achievement for me personally. Well, why would that be such an unbelievable achievement, and why is that important to me? And here is where the emotional chord struck for me. Some of you know my story, and I grew up as I was the fat kid in the group. There's no other way to say it, right? That's just the way that it is. I was picked on, I was razzed, I was ridiculed, I was all those things. I was made fun of. I was the butt of every joke, pun intended. If I'm able to do this, then what I'm able to, and I don't have to turn pro to accomplish this part necessarily, but it's all part of kind of the same package. By being able to transform my own physique, it's not about me anymore. It's about everyone else out there that shares a story that's similar to mine. Where, whether you were made fun of or you were picked on or what, it doesn't matter, right? But you're in a situation where you really want so badly to, change your physique. And it's not, Tasty Trader, I was obviously kidding. It's not just about vanity. And I know that you don't feel that way. I know, of course, you were joking because you and I have gotten to know each other pretty well. I'm still not reading your emails, but we've gotten to know each other pretty well over the years. It's not just about vanity, right? For someone to change their lives with their physique, physically, with their fitness levels, it changes so many things about you. And I could speak to that, and that's a rabbit hole that I don't want to go down. But that's why I'm such a champion for fat loss. That's why we get on here every week, every Thursday night, and we talk about the weekly shred, because it's so important to me. And that's why I have Full Throttle Fat Loss. And that's why I have all these different things that are all related to fitness, and they're all really specifically dialed in for fat loss. Because I want to be an example for people. Because I have crappy genetics. I have the slowest metabolism you've ever seen in your life. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, man, if I can do it, then you can do it. If I can do it, then you can do it. Let me be the one who's gone before you, right? Let me be the one who's made all the mistakes so you don't have to. Let me be the one that's banged his head against the wall thousands of times for, years and years and years so you don't have to. But most importantly, I want to show people what's possible. That's my why. And when I figured that out a couple years ago, I'm like, that's it. Because I got butterflies, right? And I got the tingles. And I got all that stuff. And I'm like, that's it, man. That is what I'm trying to do. And so that's my why. You guys, I got this comment thing figured out. At least a little bit, man. You guys got to let me know. Tasty Trader says, oh, that's good. So thank you very much. It's the truth, though. That's actually what drives me. And so I would love to know from you guys kind of what drives you. And so I'm kind of oscillating between YouTube chat. I've got the multiple chat streams going on here, and so good stuff, man. So all right. So the first thing, when you feel like you want to quit, figure out your why and use the 5 whys that we just went through, right? And go through that process. And once you strike that emotional chord, you're gonna have your driving force. And once you have that in your back pocket, you don't have to tell anybody. You don't have to leave a comment for me. You don't have to tell me in the comments if you don't want to. That's perfectly fine. Keep it between you and yourself. But it's going to rescue you when you want to quit. It's going to push you forward when you want to throw in the towel, right? It is going to propel you to keep going when you want to surrender. It can really, really be that powerful. All right, so the first thing is figure out what your why is. The second thing is you should focus short term. And when I say short term, I mean like super duper short term. Like you should be focusing in on the next goal at hand. Like you should be focusing like super short term. And here's what I mean. When you feel like you want to quit, A lot of times, the reason why you feel like you want to quit, at least I'm speaking from personal experience, and then my work with the students inside of Full Throttle and the athletes I've coached, and just being in the industry for so long. A lot of it is because you're either you're tired and you're long in the process, right? Like you're deep into the shred season, and you're like, man, like I just don't want to do this anymore. Like that's a very valid reason for feeling like you want to quit. Another valid reason is when you're on the front end of it all, right? And you're thinking like, man, I don't know if I can do this. Like you're sincerely doubting yourself, right? And just to be real with you guys, as an honest moment of transparency, I've been in this for a really, really long time. And some of you may view me as an expert in this space. Some of you may view me as someone who, has accomplished quite a bit or whatever. I can tell you with 100% honesty, I still doubt myself all the time. Not necessarily on a daily basis. Fortunately, it's not something I have to deal with all the time, but it is something that still creeps up into my mind on a somewhat regular basis, especially when I get into a competition prep season. So if you feel like you're doubting yourself, that happens to all of us, man, right? I'm not a robot, right? Your heroes on Instagram aren't robots. Your role models on Twitter aren't robots, right? We're all just human beings, and we all have the same emotions that you have. And so just because you might be looking at someone that's done what you want to do or has accomplished a lot of the things that you want to accomplish, don't assume that they're just immune to these emotions, because they're not. And I'm telling you guys right now that I am absolutely not. And so I very frequently, when I get into a competition prep and I have these goals, set ahead for myself, I doubt myself. I do. I genuinely doubt, am I up to the task? Can I do what needs to be done? And so when I feel those emotions creeping in, because they do almost every single time, like clockwork, one of my strategies that actually works extremely well is I focus super short term. And when I say super short term, I mean like super short term. I just focused on the next training session. And if it's really bad, if I'm really feeling like in the pits, I just focus on the next set. I don't usually get down to the rep level, like that's maybe a little bit too granular, but I'll focus on the next set. And I'll be like, all right, man, let's just get the next training session in. And then when I'm inside of the training session, let's just focus on the next set. Let's just focus on the next interval. Because here's the thing that you're going to find is true 999 times out of 1,000. You can do the next set. You can do the next interval. You have the capability. You have the ability. You have the skill. You have the stamina. You have everything that you need to make that happen. And so by focusing in, by honing in on just what is right in front of your face, forget about the forest. Just look at that tree that is staring right back at you. That's all I want you to focus on. And then you take that idea and you apply it to every area of physique transformation. Your training, your nutrition, your cardio, your recovery, your whatever. Fill in the blank. It doesn't matter. You just take it one step at a time. And then here's what's amazing about doing that. You do that when you feel like you want to quit. You do that when you feel like you want to surrender. And then all of a sudden, because you've just focused on execution, because you've just taken your mind off of the bigger goal and you've just focused super short term, a couple of days later, a week later, however long it takes, all of a sudden, you see a new line in the mirror. All of a sudden, you go down, a button on your jeans. All of a sudden, although you probably only have one button on your jeans, you go down a notch on your training belt. Let's go with that. The scale goes down a little bit. You take a picture with your family and you look at it like, wow, actually my face looks leaner than it normally does. And then what happens is you don't want to quit anymore. You don't want to surrender anymore. You're not thinking about giving up anymore. You have just gotten that next jolt of inspiration, right? You've just gotten that next shot of motivation that you needed to propel you to the next, way station, right? To propel you to the next, jumping off point, or however you want to view it, right? And so it's just these little games that we play with ourselves, man. But focusing super short term is extremely effective. So I would strongly encourage you guys to utilize that when you feel like you want to quit. So, all right. So find your why. Let's see, Tasty Fair, like, can I finish this run? There you go. That's exactly right. So another great comment came in. Can I finish this run? That's exactly right. right? That's a great way to look at it. You're in your run, right? You got a 10-minute run, you got a 20-minute run, you got a 3-minute run would be like one of my runs. It's like, all right, like I can do 3 minutes, right? I'm a minute and a half in. I can do another minute and a half. I'm really, really confident that I can do this, right? And so just by scaling down your focus, which is kind of a lead into number 3 here, it's really, really, really effective. And so, yep, results create the motivation, not vice versa. That is so true. So true that the results create the motivation. I absolutely, unequivocally, 100% agree with that. It's almost like maybe I've said that before, and we are on the same page when it comes to that. So yeah, so that's really, really good stuff. So all right, so focus super short term, super whatever. Find your why, and then here's the last one. And this one I think actually might be, well, I don't want to say it's the most powerful of all. I was going to say that, but that actually wouldn't be true. I think the finding of the why is probably the most powerful of all. So the last, that's not what I wanted to do. The last one is scale down your goals. So again, let's bring this thing full circle. In the words of Shakespeare, why do you feel like you want to quit? Most of the time, it's because your goals are huge, which is not a bad thing, right? Right. The takeaway tonight, the action item tonight, as I like to call them, it's not to throw away your big lofty goals. No, I want you guys to have crazy big goals, right? I want you guys to have incredibly huge goals, right? That's not the moral tonight, if you will. But if you feel like, man, I'm overwhelmed by this goal, like I really feel kind of handicapped by what I have up in front of me, one of the most effective things you can do is obviously find your why, nail that thing down with the 5 whys, focus super short term, that can really, really help, but then scale down your goals. And a great example of this would be like, let's say, for example, you want to lose 1.5 pounds a week, right? I'm a huge fan of the scale. Maybe we'll talk about this next week in the weekly shred. This would be a great topic because the scale, in my opinion, is so overly demonized in society where people are like, don't focus on the scale. Like, the scale lies to you. Like, the scale doesn't show the muscle you're gaining and the blah, 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 and the blah, 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 and the blah, blah, blah. I actually think about that completely differently. I think the scale is one of the most objective tools that you have in your toolbox, and it should be viewed as such, especially when you're in the beginning of a brand new shred season. The scale is going to be very, very true to form, and it's going to be a great indicator of progress or lack thereof. Now, there's a lot more to that, of course. There's layers, beneath that, but generally speaking, that's kind of how I feel about the scale. But scale down your goals. Let's say you're trying to lose 1.5 pounds a week, and you've got 30 pounds to lose, right? So that would take you about 20 weeks, right? 20 weeks, that's only 5 months. That's it, 5 months. And if you lost 30 pounds, for 98% of the population, your life would completely change, right? Obviously, your physique would completely change, right? You would look completely different. You'd probably feel amazing. Your health markers, your doctor will be so proud of you, right? And just everything it's going to have a ripple effect to a positive degree that you can't even possibly anticipate. But you might be intimidated by that, right? You might feel like, man, I'm 2 weeks in. I've only lost, 2.5 pounds or 3 pounds or whatever, and I'm feeling a little frustrated. I'm feeling a little intimidated. I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. And you're thinking, man, I don't know if I can do this, right? I don't know if I can really buckle this down for the next 5 months, 4.5 months. Well, one of the things you can do is you can scale down those goals. Don't try to lose 1.5 pounds a week. Just go for 1 pound. Go for 0.5 pound, right? Remember, it's not a race. Right? This is not, there's no extra prize for finishing first, right? And this is like super cliche, of course, but it really is just you versus you, right? Now, obviously, some of you might be competitive athletes like Tasty Trader. I know that you are. And so, if you're a competitive athlete, it's a little bit different because you have a deadline, right? You have an actual show day. But for most people, right, that take their physique seriously, that take their fitness seriously, they're not stepping on stage, so they don't have an end point. Now, don't get me wrong, right? Having an endpoint that you respect, having an endpoint that you take seriously can do wonders for you in terms of lighting the fire that you need. But still, there are times when it is appropriate to scale down your goals, right? I think the 2 most common times to do this are, number 1, actually when you're near the end of your cut, when you're near the end of your shred season and you're getting very close to your goal. And the reason why it makes sense to scale down your goals now is because anyone who's lost a lot of weight knows this. When you get super, super, super lean, only losing a half a pound, or actually seeing no change in the scale weight, right? As much as I love the scale, it does have some limitations. One of those being at the end of your shred season. Tiny, tiny changes on the scale, or no changes at all, can still produce dramatic results in how you look. Dramatic results in your physique and in the fat loss or the body fat that you're carrying on your frame. So in that scenario alone, scaling down your goals can make a lot of sense. So that's the first situation where this can be an extremely effective tactic for you to use. The second one is, let's just say hypothetically, you were in quarantine for 3.5 months and gyms were closed and you couldn't leave the house and you really shouldn't even be going to the grocery store, right? Hypothetically. In that scenario, you might feel super stressed. In that scenario, you might feel like, man, like I'm just stressed to the max, right? Like I'm worried about my job, I'm worried about my family, I'm worried about my kids. You know, everything feels so weird out in society. Like everything that was normal is now like super abnormal, and I don't know what's going to happen and all that kind of stuff. Hey, that is a great time to scale down your goals, right? That is a great time to maybe not try to, shred up as quickly as you can. It may be not the time to get as svelte as you possibly can. And so it might be a great idea to maybe just throttle those things down a little bit, right? Hey, you guys know I'm the biggest fan there is of going full throttle. But sometimes we got to go medium throttle. Sometimes we got to go low throttle, right? And so you just have to be aware and give yourself a little bit of grace. Man, give yourself a little bit of grace. Give yourself a little bit of freedom. Don't overly judge yourself, right? You also, we've got to stress urgency a little bit. There's got to be a little bit of fire. There's got to be a little bit of pressure, right? Because most people need that to get themselves going. But once you've gotten going and once you've proven to yourself that you're taking this seriously, then it's okay to let off the accelerator just a little bit and scale down those goals. And so those are my three tactics for what to do when you want to quit, right? And Tasty Trader, 3 weeks to the 50th birthday. Whoa, yeah, it's a race. It's a race. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, okay. I think that's fair, right? So you got 3 weeks to turn 50. You better get it done, man, because life is over in 3 weeks. So I wish you good luck, and I wish you Godspeed, of course. But of course, I kid. But these are 3 things that I think are really, really effective. And so what do you do when you want to quit? I would find your why. I would focus super short term, and then I would go ahead and scale down those goals. And so here is the action item that I have for you guys tonight. At some point, man, we all want to quit, right? We already talked about this. But it's what you decide to do in this moment that will ultimately make all the difference, right? This is it. You're going to face a fork in the road. You're going to face several forks in the road, right? You want to lose 30 pounds? You're not going to do it in a week. You want to lose 50 pounds? You're not going to do it in a month, right? You want to radically transform your physique, which is what I'm the biggest champion for because I've been on both sides of the fence myself. It's going to take some time. And along that time, there's going to be moments when you want to throw in the towel. Along that time, there's going to be moments when you want to surrender. And it's what you do in those moments, the decisions that you make at those times, that are ultimately going to determine what happens at the very end. They're ultimately going to determine whether or not you do ever reach the finish line. So that's the weekly shred, man. I really hope you guys got something from tonight. I'm so humbled by those of you that checked it out live, whether it be on Twitter or Facebook or YouTube. It looked like we had a little bit of success with some of the comments coming through Twitter and on chat over there on YouTube. I'll have to look into Facebook to see if there were any comments that came through. But again, I know many people don't watch this live necessarily. They check it out on the replay. And so either way is totally cool with me. If you guys want to grab some free swag, man, I got some stuff down in the description. You can grab the Fat Loss Formula, which might give you a few insights and a few additional practical strategies that you can use when it comes to your training and your cardio and your nutrition and what have you. You can grab my free cardio plan. I've got a 12-week cardio plan that I actually use myself when I start a competition prep. I use some version of what is in that plan almost every single prep to kind of get fat loss, off to a good start and get that thing kick-started. So those are both free. You can definitely check those guys out down in the description. So that's it. That's the weekly shred tonight. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the night, a great weekend, and I will see you guys next week.